Hello, my name is Peter Schilling, and we're pleased today to welcome Professor Eugene McCarthy, a gentleman with an extensive and varied resume, a bachelor's degree from Boston University in Ancient Greek, a master's degree from San Francisco State University in Comparative Literature, and at the base of it all, an associate degree in liberal arts from MassBay Community College as a member of the college's first graduating class of 1963. Welcome, Eugene McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Now, why did you choose to become a student back in 1961 at a brand new school?
Well, I had dropped out of college at the tender age of 17 and tried to find my way into the banking business, and then had a promising tryout. I had a pretty good fastball. I had a tryout with the Red Sox. It didn't pan out. And then by a quirk of fate, a mismailing by a college I was supposed to attend got me to the doorstep at MassBay Community College on St. Botolph Street in September of 1961.
So you were going to enroll at another college, is
Yes.
that right?
Yep.
And what happened there? How did you end up at MassBay?
They had sent my notice of acceptance to the wrong address.
Really?
Yep.
So you somehow stumbled into MassBay?
I had run into a friend, and she said, there's a new college opening up right down the street. And sure enough, there I was in the middle of plumbers and plasterers and electricians and a dean accepting applications.
And they welcomed you?
They welcomed me with open arms.
Well, it was a unique college at a unique time in 1961, and the first president was John Mackenzie. At the time, he was called the director of the college.
Yes.
And he seems to, I was looking through the yearbook from 1963, and I was struck by how many times the themes of integrity came up. Was that integrated throughout the curriculum, or how was integrity, how did that become such a major theme of the college at that time?
Yeah, it certainly was a major theme, Peter. John Mackenzie insisted that we, as new students, attend a director's hour 1 hour a week. We got 1 credit for it.
Really?
Yes, and he would give us a variety of stories and anecdotes about solid core fundamental values: hard work, integrity, excellence. And he hammered that home for 2 years at MassBay. I never forgot that experience. I never forgot those stories.
Yeah, in the yearbook, he speaks about excellence in his opening statement. And he said he's impressed by the MassBay students' refusal to accept mediocrity.
Yes, yes, I like that. And one of the things about Jack Mackenzie was, because we only had 450 students to start with, he engaged us in the hallways. You know, we saw him in the cafeteria. We saw him outside the college. And, you know, he was a terrific person, and he would reinforce these things that he was talking about during the director's hour.
I also found a theme in the yearbook about family, and I guess that's what you're referring to with a small college. Teachers really needed to be close to students.
Yes. This is something that I hold dear today, even as I still teach. And we learn this, again, from Jack Mackenzie and the exceptional faculty, many of whom were drawn from Harvard, from BU, from Brandeis, Tufts. The teacher-counselor concept. You're not just a classroom instructor. And again, I think the size of the college helped that along as well. We knew our instructors almost, not quite, but almost on a first-name basis, because we saw them every day in the hallways, in the caf, outside, and they were there all the time. It was a terrific experience.
That's nice. That sounds very supportive. And then you transferred to Boston University, isn't that right?
I did.
As more than half of MassBay graduates do after they receive their associate's degree. Even today, they move on to a 4-year school and enter as juniors. Is that what you did at BU?
I did. I did. And thanks to Jack Mackenzie, I was able to get some scholarship money. And my experience at BU was fabulous. And many of the values that Jack had spoken of were reinforced at BU. And of course, he was a former BU and Harvard dean.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Now, you chose to study liberal arts, languages, and literature. Why did you choose those subjects?
Well, I had the good fortune to go to Boston College High School. And in those days, I graduated, of course, in 1960. In those days, you're required to take 4 years of Latin and 3 years of Greek, 2 years of French and or German.
My, how things have changed.
Yes, they certainly have. And so when I got to Boston University, I had had terrific experience taking math and science at MassBay, and I was going to major in that area, math and science, because it was the age of Sputnik, it was the age of the Cold War.
Sure.
But I met a terrific professor there, Emily Vermeulen, who talked me into majoring in Greek.
And you've taught English and humanities for many years, and taught many years at a community college, even to this day. Why are liberal arts important? I mean, I can't get a job as a liberal artist, can I?
Well, I always tell my kids, and I teach a course in both mythology and literature, I tell my students that 50% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies have liberal arts degrees.
Yeah.
Now, clearly they have other degrees like MBAs and management degrees and PhDs and so on. But I think it's important in a society that needs to recognize where it's come from. And in doing that, I think we recognize where we're going, too.
So you're implying that employers value the liberal arts even to this day, even in technical fields?
Absolutely, perhaps even more so in technical fields, because one of the things that an employer will recognize in a liberal arts student is an ability to think critically and to write.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing this time and time again. As I tell my students, I have, in order to support my teaching habit over the years, I've been a professional writer. And you see ads for liberal arts grads, in banks and computer companies, because the human resources people know that they can write.
Yeah. Has the perspective of a liberal arts education changed over the years? The way we look at a liberal arts education, has it changed in the 50 years since you were a liberal arts major?
I think so. If you look at the numbers, I think in the 70s, nearly 70% of graduating students had degrees in liberal arts, and that's down now to about 25%.
Yeah.
Regrettably. And yes, it has changed. I think we've seen careerism creep in. We've seen the economic value, and for good reason. I mean, all you have to do is look at the cost of a private college education these days.
Yeah.
So I think many students and their parents are reconsidering the idea of a liberal arts education. But I always tell students, get the degree you want. And if that's liberal arts, fine. Then you can always go to business school.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think I agree with you. The people who I see, young students coming into school and their family, their parents, they think of education in terms of ROI, return on investment. Quantitatively, what will my degree or certificate get me? Do you see students being more critically looking at the classes they're taking and trying to put together a career path rather than so much a liberal arts education?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly at the community college now, there's a tremendous emphasis on career tracking and technical education. Yet I see and I sense among students I think students want more. For example, my mythology class it always runs 25 to 30 students every semester. And I think the kids are looking for something beyond, career training or technical education that can be dry at times. I think they're looking for something beyond that, and I think liberal arts provides that.
Sure it does, yeah. Now, of course, when you were in college at MassBay in the very early 60s, there were really changing times in our country's history. When you entered college, we had a youthful young President Kennedy. When you left college, President Kennedy had already been assassinated. How did student attitudes change during that period from the hopefulness and the promise of the Kennedy years into, what came after? Did students' attitudes change? Did young people's attitudes change over that event?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's unmistakable. I think I often use the word eviscerated.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we graduated from MassBay in 1963, we were full of hope. A young president, things had changed. There was ask not what your country can do for you. There was the Peace Corps. There was, and this reinforced my desire to be a teacher. There was a feeling of optimism and hope, and then suddenly the shot in Dallas changed everything. Kids just wanted to go out and get a job and say the heck with it.
Really?
Yeah.
How has teaching changed since that time? Obviously, there's a lot of technology in the classroom, and we can debate whether or not that's actually improving learning outcomes. But aside from that, how has your role as a teacher changed over the last few decades?
Well, I think, you know, I think if you take a profession seriously, you know that you need to be constantly on the make for things that are going to work in your classroom, no matter how old you get. And I have, over the years, tried to develop, I don't want to say different methods, but different tactics in the classroom. Try to engage the kids in different ways. I see that has been a trend. That has been a trend in teacher training as well. The idea of engaging the students and using the group dynamic.
Fewer lectures, more classroom interaction.
Yes, absolutely. And technology can be part of that. It can also hinder that, frankly.
Yeah. And how have students changed? Obviously, they dress a little differently, they speak a little differently, but have they changed in 40 or 50 years? The community college student in particular, has that student changed over the last few decades?
I don't think so. You know, it's funny you should ask that question. I was talking to a colleague about that the other day. The kids that, and we have older students as well, and returning vets, maybe much more so than back in the day, but still we have middle and working class kids coming to school looking for quality, affordable education and shooting for the American dream. It was that way 50 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that not all of these some of these kids are very high achievers in high school. They might not have, as you mentioned, $50,000 a year to go to a private college, or perhaps they don't want to leave the area and go far from home. And you know, I'm struck by the diversity here, and certainly the classrooms in all colleges, I would say, are more diverse than they were 40 or 50 years ago. So it's interesting to hear you say that they're really the same type of person looking for the same advantages of a college education.
Indeed, yes. And this is the beauty of the community college. I had, as I mentioned earlier, I think, my first year at MassBay, I had Carlos Vaca, who was the head of the foreign language department at Harvard. Retired, but came back to teach in the community college. I had brilliant teachers, Brooks Van Everen from Boston University, Joanna Saka from McGill. I mean, these were giants.
Yeah. We encourage you to get to know MassBay Community College, which you can do by attending one of MassBay's many cultural events, which are open to the public. Coming up in October, we have on October 9th the film Mile of Hope, the Dan Cummings story, featuring a reception with the filmmaker David Frisina. And the subject of his film, Dan Cummings, will also be at the reception on October 9th. MassBay is also the residence of the Wellesley Symphony Orchestra, who will open this season on October 19th with a celebration of the 200th anniversary of the Star-Spangled Banner. And there will be many more events throughout the year, which you can learn about on our website, massbay.edu, or just drive down Route 9 and check out the banner in front of the college advertising our many events. Gene, as chair of the 50th Reunion Committee, tell me a little bit about your former classmates and who will be at this event.
Well, Peter, it just never ceases to amaze me to see old classmates from MassBay. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been associated with the community college from MassBay to Middlesex Community College for the better part of 50 years. And I never cease to be amazed at the success stories. When we get together next week, we're going to see CEOs, we're going to meet entrepreneurs, lawyers, social workers, teachers, college professors, all of whom went to MassBay in the early 60s. the community college is a stepping stone to success and affordable education, and it was in 1961, and it still is, I think, today.